Second one is law of areas. This is also called the second law of Kepler's planetary motion. About the planetary motion. So, it is one of the following of the first law. What is the following? In which manner it is following? Let us suppose this is the elliptical orbit. This is the position of Sun. Let us suppose I am writing as S, where S is equal to Sun. While the planet is revolving around the Sun in elliptical orbit, this is one of the position, let us say P1. This is the another position, let us say it is P2. This is the another position of the planet, P3. These three are the different positions of the planet with respect to the time, means they are revolving, means moving in the elliptical orbit. So, I am drawing the line which joins the Sun to the planet at different positions. This is one line, let us say L1. This is one line, L2. This is one line, L3. So what is the statement of law of areas after this explanation? The line which is joining the Sun to the planet sweeps equal areas in equal intervals of time. The line joining the Sun to the planets sweeps equal areas in equal intervals of time. Means rate of change of area of the planets around the Sun is 0. dA by dt is equal to 0 because area is equal to constant. Once the line which joins the Sun to the planet sweeping the equal areas means this planetary motion is following the law of conservation of angular momentum. So that's why this law is also called as consequence of law of angular momentum, conservation of angular momentum. This is the consequence of law of conservation of angular momentum. Suppose if an examiner asks to prove the law of conservation of angular momentum in case of planetary motion, we can state the second law and we can prove like this. The third one is law of periods, or we can say it as law of time period also. The other title of this statement is third Kepler's law of planetary motion, or third Kepler's law. So, what is the statement given by this? Again, we are drawing the elliptical path around the Sun. This is the different positions of the planet. After crossing all the positions with respect to the time, this planet again comes to the original state where it started the motion. This is called one complete revolution. The time taken for one complete revolution of any planet around the Sun is called time period of that particular planet. So the statement for this is the square of the time period is directly proportional to square of the time period of a planet which is revolving around the Sun in elliptical path is directly proportional to the cube of its semi-major axis, or the cube of the semi-major axis of a planet or of this elliptical path which is covered for the planetary motion. So the statement is the square of the time period of a planet around the sun is directly proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis semi-major axis of the path or orbit traced by the planet. Mostly the path traced by the planet, we can say it as semi-major axis. So the trace path, the trace covered by the planet is nothing but elliptical. So the semi-major axis of the elliptical path is nothing but A. So in some of the textbooks and standards, we can say it as R also. So the path covered by the planet is elliptical orbit. Now we will see the proof of this one by using the time period of the satellites. So now we will discuss the time period of a satellite or time period of a planet. Planet or satellite. What is the definition of time period? The time taken for one complete revolution. Or time taken per one complete revolution. Its symbol is capital T. So we can say the capital T is equal to distance traveled per one complete revolution by orbital velocity. Because general formula is velocity is equal to distance by time or displacement by time. So therefore time period is equal to distance traveled by orbital velocity. Distance traveled in one complete revolution per orbital velocity. So suppose if it is moving in the elliptical orbit, so the distance traveled for one complete revolution along the circular path is 2 pi r whole divided by orbital velocity means v naught is equal to t. We know that v naught is equal to square root of gm by r. Therefore, t is equal to 2 pi r by square root of gm by r. Now I am squaring on both sides. Squaring on both sides. T square is equal to 2 pi r square, nothing but 4 pi square r square by gm by r. So this will be 4 pi square r cube by gm. Pi is constant, g is also universal constant, m is maybe if the mass of the planet, it is also the constant. So if all three are constants, we can say that t square is proportional to r cube, where r is semi-major axis. In other words, we can write it as a also. R, comma A are semi-major axis. So what we can understand, this is the proof of Kepler's third law of planetary motion. This is the proof. Kepler's third law of planetary motion. This is the question which is based on the third Kepler's planetary motion. The statement of the problem is, consider the following data. Small g is equal to 9.8 meters per second square. Re, nothing but the radius of Earth, is 6.4 into 10 to the power of 6 meters. The distance to the moon, r, is equal to 3.84 into 10 to the power of 8 meters. And the time period of the moon's revolution is 27.3 days. Obtain the mass of the Earth in two different ways. We will discuss the two different ways to find the mass of the Earth. First one is easy method, where small g is equal to capital G m by r square. G, it is acceleration due to gravity, that's why we should substitute r is equal to radius of Earth. Therefore, we can write g is equal to capital G me by re square. So where mass of the Earth is g re square by capital G. So therefore, mass of the Earth me is equal to, small g is 9.8, radius of Earth is 6.4 into 10 to the power of 6 meters whole square, whole divided by capital G is 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. So we can say that 9.8 into 6.4 into 6.4 into 10 to the power of 12 whole divided by 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 11. If we do the whole calculation, we will get the answer 6 into 10 to the power of 24 kg. This is the mass of Earth by this simplest method. So we will apply the third Kepler planetary motion law to find the mass of the Earth in the second way. So the second method to find out the mass of the Earth is by using the Kepler's third law of planetary motion. So what we can say, t square is equal to 4 pi square r cube by GME. So where ME is equal to 4 pi square r cube by GT square. Therefore, mass of Earth ME is equal to 4 into pi square means 3.14 whole square. R means the distance from the sun, moon to Earth, 3.84 into 10 to the power of 8 meters. Whole cube, whole divided by G, nothing but 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 11. Time period is 27.3 days. Therefore, we can write 27.3 days. For day, it is 24 hours. For hour, 60 minutes. For minute, 60 seconds. It is square in the formula, that's why we should apply the square as a power. So 4 into 3.14 into 3.14 into 3.84 whole cube into 10 to the power of 24 by 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 11 into 27.3 into 24 into 60 into 60 whole square. After calculating all the things, we will get some 6.02 into 10 to the power of 24 kg. In the previous method, we got 6 into 10 to the power of 24 kg. In this method, we got 6.02 into 10 to the power of 24 kg. In any way, in the two methods, we are getting almost the same answer. The percentage difference between them is 1%. The next concept is the total energy of the orbiting satellite. Total energy is nothing but kinetic energy plus potential energy. Let us suppose this is the Earth. At a height h from the surface of the Earth, a satellite is revolving. Satellite. This is some Earth. This is the surface. We know that the radius of the Earth is r in any direction. So, the location of the orbit or the location of the satellite from the Earth center is r plus h. So, Ke is equal to, we know that half mv square, but V is equal to nothing but V naught G into capital M by R plus H. So, this is V naught is square root, V naught square is equal to Gm by R plus H. Now I am substituting these values in the Ke. Therefore, Ke is equal to 1 by 2 into small m into V square means capital Gm by R plus H. This will become capital G, capital M, small m by 2 into R plus H. This is K. Let us say this is equation 1. The next one is potential energy. Potential energy, we already discussed about this. The potential energy equation is nothing but the work done to move the satellite from one point to another point, from infinity to the distance r or any finite distance. It will be minus G capital M small m by R plus H. So, what we can write in this equation is total energy is equal to Ke plus Pe. Therefore, where Ke is Gmm by 2 into R plus H, where Pe is Gmm by R plus H. We can take G capital M small m by R plus H as common. This will be half minus 1. This half minus 1 will become minus half. Therefore, total energy Te is equal to minus Gmm by 2 into R plus H. Total energy of a orbiting satellite is equal to the negative gradient of kinetic energy. If you see the equation of kinetic energy, this is also same. So, total energy is equal to negative gradient of kinetic energy. Negative gradient of kinetic energy. This is the problem which is related to the total energy of the orbiting satellite. The content of the problem is a 400 kg satellite is in a circular orbit of radius 2 RE about the Earth. How much energy is required to transfer it to a circular orbit of radius 4 RE? What are the changes in the kinetic energy and potential energy? We know that total energy of an orbiting satellite is minus gmm by 2 r plus h. If r plus h is approximately equal to r, we can write this one as minus gmm by 2r. If you see the case, it is the mass of the satellite is 400 kg. Where capital M is mass of the Earth, we can then, if capital M is mass of the Earth, we can write the mass of the satellite is small m. So if you substitute these values, therefore K initial energy is equal to minus G capital M small m by 2 into radius is 2 RE. It is nothing but minus G capital M small m by 4 RE. This is the initial energy, initial kinetic energy. Final kinetic energy is minus G capital M small m by 2 into 4 RE, because it should be shifted to the radius of 4 RE. Therefore, the answer is minus G capital M small m by 8 RE. What is the change in the energy required? Means the minimum energy required to transfer the satellite from the orbit of radius 2 RE to the radius 4 RE. We are finding like this, Kf minus Ki. So what is Kf? Minus G capital M small m by 8 RE. What is Ki? Minus into minus plus capital G m by 4 RE. So if we take G m by RE as common, we can write this one is minus 1 by 8 plus 1 by 4. Kf minus Ki is equal to minus G capital M small m by RE into, or we can take GMM by RE as common, minus 1 by 8 plus 1 by 4. So it is G capital M small m by RE into, where 8 is the LCM, minus 1 plus 2. So 2 minus 1 is 1. So 1 by 8, therefore it is answer is G capital M small m by 8 RE. But if you multiply it with RE and divide with RE, this equation will change like this. Kf minus Ki is equal to Gmm by RE square into RE by 8. We know that this Gm by RE square is nothing but small g RE small m by 8. This must be the energy required to change the satellite from the orbit of radius 2 RE to 4 RE. If we substituted the values of RE and m and g, we will get the change in kinetic energy also. So what will be the change in kinetic energy? Kf minus Ki is nothing but delta Ke, where g is 9.8, where radius of Earth is 6.4 into 10 to the power of 6, where mass of the satellite is 400 kg by 8. If we do the calculation, we will get 3.13 into 10 to the power of 9 joules. This is the change in kinetic energy. First bit was over. So now the change in PE. The change in PE is always the twice in the change of KE, or twice of the KE. Twice of the change in KE, or twice of the change in total energy. Therefore, delta P dot E, where delta indicates the change, is equal to 2 into delta KE. 2 into the delta KE is 3.13 into 10 to the power of 9 joules. So approximately this answer is 6.26 into 10 to the power of 9 joules. Therefore, change in KE is 3.13 into 10 to the power of 9 joules. Change in PE is 6.26 into 10 to the power of 9 joules. The next point to discuss is weightlessness. So, it is said to be no weight also. Suppose if a person is standing on any floor, which is a rough floor or a smooth floor, he is applying force on the floor. At the same time, the floor is also applying some amount of force to stop his force. That's why the person who is standing on the floor is able to experience the weight. Experiencing the weight. If the bodies such like a spring, an astronaut, or a lift, which are moving in the direction of the acceleration due to gravity, while they are aligning in the direction of gravity, they also feel weightlessness. Means the body may free fall under the action of the gravitational force. Freely falling bodies always directed towards small g. So that's why smooth journey is possible. The third case what we can observe in this state is whenever a spring, it is fixed at one end, second end is hanged, oscillates. But if the two ends are free, while it is dropped, when it is falling in the direction of the gravity or the acceleration due to gravity, then it experiences the weightlessness. That means the spring also experiences the smooth journey. Experience is no weight. Because the spring is freely hanged, there is no other weight is placed or fixed to any end. It's a free body. These are all the natural examples what we can see on the earth. But this weightlessness condition is actually suitable for the astronauts. These astronauts in a spaceship, while they went to a space to an extent level, there the gravity or the acceleration of the vehicle is always towards the center of the gravity of Earth. Acceleration of the ship or of the spaceship is always towards the center of gravity of Earth. or of the earth. That's why the spaceships seems to be or assumed to be freely falling bodies. So while they are moving up, at one point they will feel weightlessness because of the no gravity there. That's why these astronauts are floating in the space. There is no possibility to hold any object also. So no gravity is the result to the weightlessness or the no weight. So these are all the natural examples which we can see on the observe on the earth. This is one of the example in the space or the astronautic examples. What is the reason behind the weightlessness feeling of the astronauts? Because the center of the gravity, toward the center of the gravity, acceleration of the spaceship is always fixed. That's why they will feel the weightlessness situation. This causes to the floating of astronauts as well as spaceships and spaceships. So in this lesson we have started with the Newton's universal law of gravitation. We have seen the special cases, the ability to find the capital G by the Cavendish method, small g, variations of the small g, and the escape and orbital velocities of the satellites which are revolving around the earth or the different celestial objects, and we have concluded with the weightlessness situation. So from this, by this concept, we are finishing this lesson. This is the problem which is related to the concept of orbital velocity. So we should find the orbital velocity of a satellite which is close to the earth or which is close to the surface of earth also we can say. The orbital velocity formula V0 or V0 is equal to orbital velocity that is equal to square root of gr. Therefore, V0 is equal to square root of, where g is 9.8, radius of earth is 6.4 into 10 to the power of 6 meters. So if we do the calculation, we will get approximately 7.92 kilometers per second. So the orbital velocity means if a planet or satellite which is revolving around the earth, which is exactly on the surface of the earth, should have this much of velocity to rotate in the circular path, that is called as orbital velocity. This is 7.92 kilometers per second. This can be written as 7.92 kilometers second inverse also.